The Salazar family arrived in the sleepy town of Santa Maria, their hearts filled with hope and excitement. The small, old house they had found seemed like the perfect place to begin anew. It was their dream, affordable and secluded, giving them the fresh start they had longed for. But as soon as they stepped inside, there was a palpable shift in the air, a sense that something was not quite right. The house, though charming at first, felt as if it had been waiting for them. Its walls, thick with the scent of mildew, seemed to whisper in the silence. "It's just an old house," Maria, the mother, said, trying to reassure herself as she ran her fingers along the dusty banister. "We'll make it work." Antonio, her husband, nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the house was watching them. The kids, Isabella and Elias, ran ahead, eager to explore, but they too felt an unexplainable dread lingering in the air. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, the family gathered in the living room. A single dim lamp flickered above, casting long shadows. In the corner of the room, an old gramophone stood untouched. Maria, recalling a fond memory, decided to turn the knob. The needle scratched against the record, and faint, eerie music began to play, its distorted melody seeming to come from deep within the house. The air grew heavier, like something was coming alive. Antonio winced. "This music, it feels wrong." Isabella, holding her doll, suddenly gasped, her eyes wide. "Mama, someone's in the house." But when they rushed to her side, there was no one there. The atmosphere felt thicker now, as though something unseen had brushed past them. The next few days, strange events became more frequent. Objects moved without explanation, books falling from shelves, a window creaking open on its own. At night, the whispers began. Soft at first, but always louder when they were near the gramophone. Elias started to speak less, his eyes fixed on the dusty old objects in the corners of the room. Isabella, too, began talking about a man who lived in the attic, though the family knew no one else was there. Then came the first real shock. One night, the family heard faint cries from the children's room. Rushing in, they found the room empty. But upon closer inspection, disturbing symbols, bloody, twisted shapes, were drawn on the walls in dark red streaks. Antonio's face went pale. He approached the closet, which had been left ajar. Something shifted behind the door, but when he opened it, nothing was there. "Is it the house?" Maria whispered. "Or our minds playing tricks?" The objects in the house began to act as if they had minds of their own. The gramophone played haunting, unfamiliar songs that seemed to shift with each passing night, growing darker and more unsettling. Antonio, who had always been rational, started to lose his temper over trivial matters, snapping at Maria and the children for no reason. Maria, usually devoted to her faith, began to speak of strange dreams, nightmares of blood and screaming that felt too real. The house, she said, was alive, and it wanted them to stay. But Elias and Isabella began noticing changes too. Elias saw shadows moving in the corners of the house, shapes that weren't there moments before. Isabella, always the curious one, started playing with the closet again, now convinced that it was a portal to another world. She'd whisper to it, and at times, the door would close on its own, as if inviting her inside. One night, desperate for answers, Elias snuck into the attic. There, buried under dust and old furniture, he found a collection of letters. They were written by the house's former owners, desperate pleas for help, accounts of strange events, and one final chilling confession. The house was cursed. Built on the site of a massacre during World War II, the land had been soaked with the blood of innocent people, civilians who had been slaughtered by invading soldiers. The curse lingered, feeding on the vulnerable, turning them into something not human. When Elias tried to tell his parents, they didn't believe him. The house had already taken root in their minds, twisting their thoughts, bending their will. Antonio became violent, shouting at Elias to stop being weak, to stop believing in ghost stories. Maria, who had once been kind and loving, urged them to stay, to embrace what the house had to offer, because it could protect them. But Elias and Isabella could see it now. The house wasn't just haunted, it was alive. It wanted them. It needed them. In a desperate bid to escape, the family tried to leave. They grabbed their belongings, ran to the door, but as soon as they stepped outside, they found themselves back at the front entrance, as if the house had pulled them back. Antonio tried again, only to feel the walls close in, pushing him to return. The house was alive, and it wouldn't let them go. The family turned on each other. Antonio and Maria's love became twisted, their once loving bond replaced with cruelty, suspicion, and fear. The children, scared and confused, fought back, but they too were drawn into the house's grip. Elias and Isabella saw the truth. They had become part of the cycle, trapped in a twisted game that had claimed countless souls before them. In the final moments, they tried one last time to destroy the house. They set fire to it, watching the flames consume the walls. But as the fire died down, the house remained untouched. The smoke cleared, revealing the same eerie, crumbling facade. The house had won. As they stood at the doorstep, their minds broken, Elias whispered, "It's never over." The house stood silently behind them, waiting for the next family to claim.